So, when and how did this happen to the studio? Is it just for today? It is? Okay, cool. Hello one and all to the late night chat room. I'm your host, the Moonstar, and yes, you read that title right, and yes, I do suffer from crippling loneliness. Due to my lack of significant other, I figured I'd spend this Valentine's Day talking about fictional characters who cannot and will not ever exist. So if you're just as lonely as I am or just want to give me your pity, stick around and find out the answer to this burning question. Which character from Street Fighter would be the best Valentine's date? Alright, here's our tier list. The first thing you'll notice is that we have a married tier at the bottom. Unfortunately, some of the characters we discuss have already found someone, and it would be kinda awkward to try and ask them out in the first place, so they'll just go here. If you got a problem with that, then I don't know, yell at me in the comments or something. The second thing of note is that there is a lot of characters in Street Fighter, so I'm gonna try and speed through most of this as well as only cover the more popular and consistent recurring characters throughout the series. But that's enough for the intro. Let's get to judging 2D drawings. Alright, starting us off here, we got our main Shoto man Ryu, a traveling fighter who seeks a challenge wherever he goes to further improve himself. So I'm mainly looking at the wiki for this, and it labels his personality as silent, meek, humble, submissive, self-deprecating, and respectful, which feels like there's some contradictions in there, but nonetheless, Ryu is submissive apparently. Do with that information what you will. But other than that, he's a relatively friendly guy, and he isn't too concerned with luxurious things, so you don't have to go all out with date plans. You could probably just hang out at a park or have a picnic and he'd be satisfied. Which, hey, that kind of date sounds nice, not gonna lie. One last thing of note is that darn Satsui no Hado that just friends to turn Ryu into a freak. If you know nothing about Street Fighter lore, that sense was probably the opposite of what you wanted to hear today. Overall, with his mind on fighting and martial arts 24/7, it would be kind of hard to actually convince him to go out on a date with you in the first place. He's a nice guy, but he's probably not too interested in romance. This puts Ryu into a solid C tier for dateability. We may as well continue with our Shotos and move on to our boy Ken Masters, who's married. I don't think any of us have a chance with this guy, to be honest. Yeah, he's going into the married tier. However, I do want to mention that the wiki describes his personality as being an alpha male with a giant ego and constantly reminds his opponents about his greatness. I am loving this. If he were single, he'd go into A tier easily. Okay, moving on to one of the first fictional characters that I had a crush on as a child, so this part may be kind of biased. Personality-wise, Chun-Li wholeheartedly believes in justice and is generally a very kind and caring person. In addition to being an expert fighter, she's also a police officer, so she has various ways of destroying you if you're a criminal. Crime fighting aside, she tends to be emotional at times, so perhaps you can take her out to a nice rom-com or something of that nature. Or I guess she'd be more into action movies and crime dramas, or completely ignore them. Can you see why I've never had a date before? Well, considering she's a good person by nature, I imagine she'd be fine with going out anywhere as long as it's not illegal. So, putting her on the tier list, Chun-Li is going into A tier. Next up, we got the master of stretching himself, Dalsim, who is also married, and going straight into married tier. If he were available though, I'd put him in the B tier. I'm sure he'd make a fantastic day of how flexible he is. Okay, moving on. Now on to Blanca, everyone's favorite character to just annoy the bejesus out of anyone with a shockball move. Kinky. Anyways, he's a feral beast of a man who tends to lean on the more passive side. As long as you don't piss him off, you're good to hang out with him. He likes having friends. As for going out on a date with him, his Street Fighter 2 stage is a small town in the Amazon rainforest, which I imagine is full of all sorts of creatures that can probably kill you. Other than that though, Blanca's a simple man, and would probably be super down to chill out just about anywhere, so no need to go anywhere extravagant. His feral nature makes him sort of a ticking time bomb though, and setting him off is what I call bad ideasville. So putting him on the tier list, he's going into the B tier. Chill guy all around. Time to cover Balrog, the boxer man with the boxer plan. He gets paid to beat the piss out of people and maybe accidentally kill them. Being a famous boxer, he's pretty stacked when it comes to wealth. Although most of that fight money was earned through cheating, and just in general he's a bit of a jerk, super full of himself, greedy, the whole 9 yards. The man also loves competition and cheating in said competitions, which I imagine is just a rough time all around. It would make board games a no-go, and I imagine he's not the type of guy to enjoy a gentle stroll through the city. So putting this egotistical powerhouse on the tier list, I'm gonna have to put him in the D tier. A bit too selfish for mine or anyone's liking, I imagine. For our next Shadowloo member, we've got the masked man himself, Vega. From a glance, his beauty is the first thing you notice about him, but what we're looking for here is personality. and he is definitely not the kind of person you can just walk up to and ask out on a date. He has a particular disdain for anything not as beautiful as him, so our chances of even being able to talk to this man are very slim. Quite frankly, if you're not someone he's looking to kill or torture, then a date with him should be a night to remember. Putting him on the tier list, I'll put Vega at a good C tier. Probably makes a great date, but actually getting there in the first place is an issue. Now we're on to Cammy, which yeah, this one might also be a bit biased. Having been a doll, which if you don't know what that is, then all you need to know is that she is no stranger to extreme methods of killing people. And there's some emotional baggage along with that, but long story short, don't pick a fight with her or be connected to any sort of villainous organization if you want to see the end of the night. In terms of interests, Cammy is very fond of cats, as explained by this image provided by the wiki. So if you happen to own a cat, that might up your chances in getting a date with her. All in all, Cammy will make a wonderful Valentine's date, so she's going into the A tier as well. So our next character, which is Guile, is also married, and I'm realizing now that I did not know how many of these characters were already taken. Because of this, I unfortunately have to place Guile into the married tier as well. Time to talk about the absolute unit, E Honda. When he's not busy exuding alpha male energy, he can be found in the bathhouse that doubles as his primary stage in Street Fighter 2. Not an ideal location for a date, but then again, if things get steamy, as in you two spar in the ring, then this would be a great place to wind down. What did you think I meant by steamy, huh? How scandalous. Anyway, he's a decently friendly guy, seems pretty open to meeting new people. Overall, E Honda would make a wonderful date, and considering his renown in the sumo world, you can definitely afford to go out somewhere nicer. With all that being said, he's going right into the A tier. DJ. This guy just seems super fun to be around, all smiles and all rhythm. Going out with this man seems like a treat. Being a musician himself, you can expect to be hearing some sick beats and bars hotter than Whoa, almost got ahead of myself there. Anyways, DJ also goes into A tier. Actually seems like a cool guy to be around and would be a fantastic choice for a Valentine's date. Alright, time for Fei Long, master of Rekkas and a clone of Bruce Lee. Fei Long is an honorable fighter and renowned movie star as well. And that's really it. Honestly, there's not much to go off of here. He's similar to Ryu in that he lives for fighting, but instead of traveling the world as a nomad, he stars in movies. So I guess if we take into account the fact that he's basically Bruce Lee, I'll put him into B tier. T-Hawk. Now this is a man who has been through it. But despite the tragedies he's endured, he's still got a noble spirit. However, he is in a relationship, sorta. He had a girlfriend who got turned into a doll and basically forgot all about him. So not only does T-Hawk have to deal with the loss of his tribe, he also wants to get Julia back, so I don't know where to put him on the list here. I don't want to put him lower than C because he's actually a pretty chill dude, but he's technically focused on one person, but not married. Okay, you know what? I've decided. I'll just put him in C tier. That seems like a good compromise. Our next character is the master of grapplers and racing health bars, the Geef himself. If you thought E Honda was a unit, Zangief is the entire friggin' army. He's an all-around powerful presence, but he's got a gentle side to him. Love me some gentle giant archetypes. However, he does have a bit of a short temper, and I don't think any of us want to experience a pile driver firsthand. So while you could work around it, that definitely takes some points away from his dateability. So all that being said, I'll put the Geef in a good B tier. The leader of Shadaloo is up next, and good lord, M. Bison is going straight into the F tier. He's a psychopathic terrorist that seeks to rule the world in classic villain fashion, and does not care who gets in his way. He would probably kill you before you can even speak, and if he did get that far, he'd probably just kill you anyway. So yeah, F tier. He is not someone who is concerned with personal relationships at all. Might as well keep going with our antagonist and move on to Sagat, who actually gets a sort of redemption arc throughout the series. He started off as a final boss who encompassed the raw power of martial arts, as well as being a former member of Shadaloo. His growth as a person has made him into an honorable man with nearly endless fighting spirit. In this way, he's similar to Ryu, the fight is everything, so he probably wouldn't be too interested in dating unfortunately. So despite being a cool character, I'll have to put Sagat in the C tier. Now on to Akuma, who is overwhelmingly powerful and not at all someone you could date. He let the Satsui know how to overtake him as a means of gaining power, but that just made him even more cold-blooded and violent. So I'm gonna have to put him in the F tier along with Bison. I don't think he'd immediately kill you, but I mean, why take the risk? So Adon I'm just gonna go ahead and put into the F tier for a couple of simple reasons. For one, he doesn't care about anyone really. Two, he's extremely egotistical. And three, have you heard his voice in Street Fighter 4? Yeah, he wouldn't be a great Valentine's date at all, so straight to the F tier he goes. Birdie, our rough and tough brute who falls into the trope of gluttony, or as some call it, one of the 7 deadly sins. He's got a punk rock thing going on with his fashion sense, and I mean I dig it, but his overall rude attitude would make it difficult to get along with him, and generally I imagine rudeness isn't what many would want from a Valentine's date. He's got a sick mohawk though, so that definitely earns him some points. Not enough to take him out of D tier though, unfortunately, so that's where he's going. Okay, so up next is Charlie, but there's actually two different versions of him throughout the series. We got him in the Alpha series and what he's like in Street Fighter V, so I'll just go ahead and separate the two. If we're looking at Charlie from the Alpha series, he's a confident and charismatic man with a bit of a brash way of handling things. He's also selfless and loyal to his friends, as seen by the fact that he made the ultimate sacrifice to save Guile and Chun-Li from Bison. But then he came back to life in Street Fighter V and became almost an entirely different person. He still retains his cool and collected exterior, but the fact that he was killed kinda pisses him off. I mean, hey, that's understandable, right? Everyone's got a grudge against someone they want dead. Here, he's a lot more cold to his friends and ultimately doesn't waste his time on socializing, so if you even tried walking up to him to ask him out, you'd probably just be ignored. To wrap this up, if you're looking to date Charlie before he died, I'd say he'd make a fantastic date. He's got a good personality and not gonna lie, he's one handsome fellow. I'll put Alpha Charlie into the A tier. As for Zombie Charlie, he still looks good for being a reanimated body, but he is dead set, no pun intended, on getting revenge and pushes people away from him. With all that, Zombie Charlie is going into the D tier. Now we're on to Dan Hibiki, the master of all joke characters. His overconfidence and massive ego are a bit much to deal with, but in general, he means well. He's not some maniacal madman or homicidal fighter, he's just a dude who thinks he's the best. As far as dating goes, I feel like he'd be overjoyed that someone is actually interested in him, so it shouldn't be too hard to ask him out. As for what you can do, well, I would bet that Dan enjoys action movies and stuff like that, so perhaps you can take him out to the movies and maybe even an arcade. Seems like a nice date. Though he is a bit selfish and arrogant at times, he has a whole super that's just him taunting you. So I'll put Dan in a good... I'm torn between B and C. Let's just say he's a good C tier. Moving on to our next character, we got Cody, and for a good while he was my main in Street Fighter 4, so prepare for some more bias here. First thing of note, he's a bit of a bad boy. He's got a track record of being reckless and is always up for a fight. He's been arrested before, but straight up just said, "Alright, I'm done here," and broke out to fight in a tournament. What a guy. And as of Street Fighter V, he's become mayor of Metro City. This here is a man with stories to tell and the charisma to match it. Going out on a Valentine's date with him seems like an absolute blast, so Cody's going right into the A tier. So our next final fight rep is Guy, and he has a fiancé. And I'm counting that as being married, so into the married tier he goes. Next up, we got our Mika, wrestler extraordinaire. So setting aside her impressive physique, she's got an upbeat personality, is very courageous, and is always looking to entertain the audience. And this kind of energy is perfect for a Valentine's Day. There would never be a dull moment. Also, it should be known that we here in the studio believe in tomboy supremacy, so our Mika is an easy A tier. Moving on to Rolento, a mercenary for hire with an extreme dedication to order and discipline. With his strict personality and hyperfixation on a military-run utopia, it would be kind of a nightmare to try asking him out on a date. I doubt he'd even be interested, and if not that, he'd probably try to coerce you to join his army, which is not what we're looking for here, man. Rolento is going into the F tier. Time to talk about Rose, a very intelligent and powerful fortune teller. She holds a vast amount of wisdom and always maintains a calm and collected composure. Although, being a fortune teller, it would be rough if you went up to ask her out and she said doing so just wasn't in Destiny's plans, or worse, would lead to catastrophe. Yeah, she tends to deal with world-ending prophecies a lot. But if fate allows you to go out for Valentine's, I'm sure it'll be a lovely day. So we're putting Rose in the A tier. Now for Sakura, a super energetic fighter with outstanding resolve. She is very determined to become a strong fighter, and hey, you gotta respect the grind. Along with this, she just seems super fun to be around. And as for what you can do for a date, how about dancing? Because she's certainly got the moves for it and would probably destroy you in DDR. In general, her outgoing personality and positivity make her a wonderful choice for Valentine's, so I'll go ahead and put Sakura in the A tier. I'm running out of ways to transition into new characters, so Yoon's pretty neat. He seems like a pretty chill dude. He's good at martial arts and is also a skater boy, but not one you should say see you later to though. God, that was an awful joke. Anyways, his easygoing attitude makes him an excellent partner for a Valentine's Day. He's also a bit of a film buff, so a night out at the movies is a must. And I imagine you can also take him out somewhere fun like an arcade or a mall, things of that nature. So for the older of the Lee twins, Yoon is going into A tier. Up next is Yang, the younger of the two Lee brothers. He's a lot more introverted than Yoon, but slightly more cocky. But like his brother, he's also a film buff, so date plan should be pretty easy to make. And with being more soft-spoken, it'll be up to you to carry the date for the most part. And if you're not up for that, then prepare for some awkward silences. That being said, I'll put Yang at a very high B tier. I was thinking A tier, but I feel like I've been too generous with those, and where's the fun in being kind? So yeah, sorry Yang, it's nothing personal. Maybe in another world, you and Yoon swap places. I guess that leads us into third strike now, so let's cover Alex. Born and raised in New York, Alex is a brash individual by nature. What with all the street fights that I'm sure go down over there on a daily basis. He's also pretty blunt and not afraid at all to call you out to your face, which can sometimes be a great trait for someone to have. When it comes to a Valentine's date, a night out in the city that never sleeps seems like a great idea. Now I've never been to New York myself, but I'm sure there are endless amounts of things you can do over there, and for a romantic evening, it just feels right, you know? Overall, Alex is the type of guy you can rely on. A strong fighter and very willing to protect others. That kind of personality lands him right into the A tier. Our next third strike character is another of my personal favorites, the impeccable gentleman Dudley. Now this guy here is the spitting image of chivalry and a little bit of snobbery. Snobbery, is that a word? Or is it something like snobbishness? Whatever, we're moving on. He will not hesitate to politely insult you whilst throwing a rose at your lifeless body. But despite sometimes displaying a condescending attitude, he still ultimately values being polite above all else. So considering we're not looking for a fight but rather a date, it's clear to see that Dudley will be an outstanding partner for Valentine's. His kindness is unparalleled, and I mean, look at this dude. His fashion sense is on point. Dudley is going right into the A tier. If you thought Sakura had some smooth moves, well those are nothing compared to Elena. Just seeing her idol animation gives you an immediate insight into her personality, full of energy and very bubbly. In addition to this, she also happens to be the princess of a whole nation, so saying you'll have a lavish date night is putting it lightly. Her overall fun-loving personality combined with her sociability make her an excellent choice for a Valentine's date, so she also gets an A tier. So Ibuki's next, right? And I've been reading over the Street Fighter wiki to get an idea of their entire character, and my lord, Ibuki's got an entire novel on here. It lists all her outfits for the games, the entire background of her design, how her personality even came to be, like, holy shrink wrap. This is by far the most loaded wiki I've ever seen for one character. Oh yeah, the tier list. I'll put Ibuki in the A tier. She's really into pop culture, so you can probably spend Valentine's chatting it up over dinner or something. Alright, who here is into century-old hermits? Because if you are, Oro is a perfect match for you. However, it should be noted that he's more fond of mature people and values experience, but he is a man who loves the simple parts of life. And what's more simple than a Valentine's date? Along with this, he's surprisingly upbeat and has a good sense of humor as well, so I'll put Oro into the B tier. Only reason is that his turtle is kind of a third wheel and like, that's not cool bro, we're trying to have a moment here. Continuing my descent into madness, we got Sean, a young fighter with an affinity for basketball. Not gonna lie, he's got quite the grind set going on here. He wants to become stronger but is still able to enjoy things like gaming and sports. So you can probably expect to spend this Valentine shooting hoops and or playing video games all day. That or he could teach you how to parry by lobbing endless basketballs at your face. Seems like a good way to bond. So all that being said, I'll put Sean in the A tier as well. Up next is yet another gigantic chunk of testosterone, Hugo. Towering at 7'10", this is not the type of guy you want to be messing with. He's a bit on the slow side, not the smartest, and he has a bit of a short fuse as well, so his dateability is kind of teetering on the lower end here. But if you happen to enjoy bodybuilding, how about a date night at the gym? I'm sure that'll be a great time. All that being said though, I'm still putting Hugo at a good C tier. He'd probably snap you like a twig if you piss him off. Urian is our next character, and all you need to know is that he is not just a top, he is a power top. However, this is mainly due to the fact that he is insane and very much willing to obliterate you at a moment's notice, whether you like it or not. Yeah, I don't see any of us being able to walk up to this guy and make it out in one piece. But if you did somehow get this guy to agree to a Valentine's date, you would definitely have a lot to look at. Is that enough to take Urian out of F tier? No, not really. F tier. Pressing onward here, we have Makoto. Being another tomboy archetype, it would be pretty easy for me to just place her in the A tier automatically. Which is what I want to do, but I'll be fair. Makoto is your usual hot-headed fighter with a competitive nature, and if you did want to ask her out for Valentine's, I imagine you'd have to spar with her in order to gain her respect, and then maybe she'd consider a date. That being said, I'll put her in B tier. Seems fair enough, right? Takes away my bias, and with her personality, she seems to focus on fighting in her family's dojo more than anything, so asking her out for Valentine's would be a bit tricky. We're on to Q now, and I'm just gonna put him in the D tier. He doesn't speak much, and when he does, it's more of an incoherent mumbling. Along with that, it would be a hassle to deal with his slow and all-around jank movement. And I imagine it's pretty hard to enjoy a romantic evening if your partner's walking around like a T-800. Oh, and is a suspected murderer, that's probably another issue. But he is kinda drippin', not gonna lie. So actually I'll put Q in C tier. So I thought I was gonna have to put another boss character into F tier, but Gil is kind of an odd case. He's a cult leader and ultimately desires to rule the world, but he's a respectful person with an air of confidence and charisma. If he weren't the leader of a shady organization that manipulates people into joining him, he'd probably be a great Valentine's date. But as it stands, he might just accept going out if he was a way for him to persuade you into joining the Illuminati. That's a pretty big red flag to miss, huh? Gil's going into D tier. And who knows, maybe the Illuminati in the Street Fighter universe is alright. Except maybe for all the brainwashing stuff. Abel's our next Valentine's candidate, and if you like them Bison just for his shredded body, then Abel's the perfect package. He's a backup body for Bison, and he actually has a personality. Look, if you don't know the lore, just roll with this, okay? Abel is a soft-spoken warrior who is pretty outgoing towards people. He's surprisingly also a fan of fluffy things, so if you're the type to give gifts for Valentine's, you can't go wrong with a teddy bear. All in all, Abel seems like a really nice guy to go out with for Valentine's, so he's going into the A tier as well. Why am I being so nice? On to the next, it's C Viper. First thing of note is that she is in fact a single mother, which I know for a fact some of y'all are into. But because she has a daughter, her focus is strictly on said daughter, and if you try to distract her by, say, asking her out on a date for Valentine's, you might be in for quite a beating. Which I know for a fact some of you are into. So, putting C Viper on the tier list, I'll be putting her into the C tier. I actually have no idea if that's a hot take or not, but either way, we're moving on. Now to talk about Seth, and I'm not sure how to go about this. I suppose I should separate the two versions of them like I did for Charlie. Yeah, we'll just do that. We have Seth from Street Fighter 4 and Seth from Street Fighter 5. In both games, they're absolutely ripped and could easily kill you. The difference being that Street Fighter 4 Seth would probably kill you in one calculated strike, whereas Street Fighter 5 Seth would probably just beat you to death. Oh right, Valentine's. Yeah, don't even think about asking him out. F tier for both of them. I am starting to realize just how draining this project has been. I'm also starting to feel like that guy that made the hottest Sonic characters video. So G is an easy A tier. He is the world's president, and with that kind of status, you know this Valentine's is going to be popping off. Just ignore the fact that he might be a certified lunatic, and you have yourself an excellent date for tonight. Going on to Colleen, I think I have a good idea as to where I'll put her. Let's see here. She's got a superiority complex of sorts, very condescending to people, which probably isn't ideal when it comes to a Valentine's date, right? So she's not the nicest person, and probably wouldn't hesitate to manipulate you for her own end goals, and if that means going out for Valentine's, well, she's going into D tier for that. We're here to have a genuine good time, and she probably doesn't care about that stuff, so yeah, D tier. So I'm just gonna combine these next two, Ed and Falk. Falk is that how you pronounce it? Whatever, I honestly don't feel anything towards these characters. I am very unfamiliar with them, and why does Ed's voice sound like that? That is not what I expected to hear coming from a dude who looks like this. Anyway, Wiki's coming in clutch, I'm just gonna read it up real quick. Yeah, they seem decent enough. I'll just put them both in B tier. Time for Lucia, and honestly I didn't expect to enjoy playing her in Street Fighter 5 as much as I did. She's super cool. Anyway, she's another tomboyish type, as well as a police officer who fights for justice and is very headstrong. Reading up more on her here, she apparently falls into the bad cook trope, which if you're unfamiliar, usually means that whatever she makes will be the equivalent of ingesting cyanide-laced rat poison. So if you're going out with her for Valentine's, a restaurant or takeout would probably be best. Dubious food aside, she's going to be going into A tier as well. She's an excellent choice for Valentine's, and I definitely have a type. Our next Valentine's candidate is Minot, a fortune teller in training. And due to her lack of dealing with apocalypse events, asking her out is probably way safer than Rose. She's very high energy, outgoing, and all around a well-meaning girl. She tends to travel around a lot too, so I imagine a good idea for a date would be to go visit various places and see the sights. Sounds like a lovely time. And you would probably have front row seats to see someone's fortune be read, and that just sounds cool. So going on our list, I'll place Minot into the A tier. I just realized I forgot to talk about Karin, but that's because she's going straight into the married tier. Why? Well, that's because she's actually my wife. Sorry, don't know what got into me there. Which character are we on now? Oh, that's right. Rashid of the Turbulent Wind, a name I have remembered very well. He's the type of fun-loving guy anyone could get along with, as well as being a very helpful and reliable man. He's also a bit of a jokester as well. It'll be very difficult to get bored talking to this dude. Overall, I'd say Rashida's a perfect Valentine's date, so I'm putting him into A tier. Ooh boy. I have been dreading this one the entire episode, because I have a feeling I know where I'm going to put her on the list, and I don't think people are going to like it. And I know she's on the frame in the background, but let's get into it and talk about Juri. A sadistic type through and through, Juri takes delight in hurting others, which again I know for a fact some of you are into. She doesn't hesitate to tease and flirt with people in order to manipulate or mock them, and really she is very willing to kick the bejesus out of anyone in her way. Despite all this though, there is some hints of good in her. From what I'm seeing on this wiki, she dislikes the idea of fighting children, which I mean, that should be a thing everyone dislikes, but it's a good start for someone like her. I should also mention that she acts this way because she wants revenge against Bison, the man who killed her parents, so trauma. I feel like if you did ask her out on a date, it could go one of two ways. Either she A, teases you about it, but then actually goes along with it, making for a lovely evening, or B, she kicks the crap out of you and leaves. I'm really conflicted on where to put her on the list here. She is evil, like she is a bad guy in the series, like let's just get that out of the way. She has killed and will kill again, but her backstory makes you feel bad for her and she does have like that hint of good. I just don't think you could ask her out for Valentine's and get out of that situation in one piece, both mentally and physically. So, oh lord, I really hope this is reasonable for everyone. I'm gonna put Juri at C tier. Is that alright for everyone? I sure hope it is, because we're moving on. I think this is actually the last fighter on my list. I can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. So, to finish up this wacky episode, we've got Laura. And you could say she's got a rather electric personality. I'm just gonna stop right there. What even is the point? She's kind-hearted and always up for meeting new people. With this kind of personality, a date with her seems like an absolute blast. She's an easy A tier for sure, for those reasons that I've stated, and other things too. Overall, a great character to cap off this list. And there we have it, the definitive Street Fighter Valentine's Day tier list. Jeez, that's a mouthful. Anyways, I know I left some characters out, but it was for my own sanity as well as to get this episode out on time. I was thinking of doing one final ranking for each character in A tier, but seeing how many there are... yeah, no. Either way, if you're looking to go off the right fictional character for you this Valentine's Day, look no further than this scientifically accurate list that is in no way opinionated. And if it's past Valentine's when you watch this episode, then tough luck, I guess. I mean, hey, there's always next year, right? All that being said, Karn is the best Street Fighter character, and I'll see you all next time on the late night... Wait a minute. Why didn't I talk about dating sim?